This is cognitive thread, and what I am about to show you took researchers decades to figure out. It is about why people stay in abusive relationships, and the answer is nothing like what you have been told. The smartest, most successful people you know are statistically the most likely to stay in abusive relationships for years. And the reason why will completely change how you see both abuse and yourself. Let me start with something that sounds completely backwards. Intelligence doesn't protect you from abuse. In fact, research suggests the opposite might be true. When we think about abuse, we imagine someone weak or desperate, someone who didn't have options. But that's not how psychology works. And once you understand why, you'll realize abuse isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign of how the human mind responds to a specific kind of trap. Let's define what we're talking about first. Abuse in relationships comes in forms: physical, emotional, financial, sexual, and psychological. But they all share one thing: they're designed to control. And control works through a mechanism that affects literally everyone, smart or not. This mechanism is called trauma bonding, and it's the answer to why people stay. But there's one part of how trauma bonding works that nobody talks about, and it explains everything. Trauma bonding happens through a cycle. The cycle has a specific pattern. Tension builds, then an incident happens, then comes reconciliation, and then a calm period. Then it repeats. And each time it repeats, the brain chemistry changes. Here's the neurological part. When you experience intense fear followed by relief, your brain releases a surge of stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline. Then when the danger passes and your abuser is suddenly kind again, your brain floods with oxytocin and dopamine. That's the bonding hormone and the reward hormone. Your nervous system learns to associate this person with both danger and safety, with both pain and comfort. Dr. Harriet Glass conducted a major study on why women stay in domestic violence situations. Her research, published in the Journal of Interpersonal Violence, found that the psychological bonds formed during abuse were often stronger than bonds in healthy relationships. The victims weren't stupid. They weren't weak. Their brains had been chemically rewired. But what Glass found next is what researchers found so disturbing about this pattern. The cycle creates something else: intermittent reinforcement. That's a psychology term for unpredictable rewards. And intermittent reinforcement is actually the most powerful way to shape behavior that exists. It's more powerful than consistent rewards. Casinos know this. Slot machines use intermittent reinforcement. You don't win every time. You win randomly. And that randomness makes you pull the lever again and again. The same mechanism works with abusive partners. You don't know when you'll get the kind version of them. So you keep trying, you keep hoping, you keep staying. This explains why leaving is so hard. Leaving means losing access to the reward, the moments of kindness and attention. Your brain has learned to crave those moments because they're unpredictable and intense. Your prefrontal cortex, the part that makes logical decisions, is literally being overridden by your limbic system, the emotional survival center. Let's look at some real examples, and these aren't abstract. These are patterns you'll recognize. Example 1. Sarah. High-powered lawyer. Attended Yale. Her partner was charming at first, then controlling. He'd criticize her appearance, monitor her phone, isolate her from friends. Then he'd buy her expensive gifts and tell her nobody would ever love her like he did. She stayed for 5 years. Her friends couldn't understand it. "You're brilliant," they'd say. "Why don't you just leave?" She couldn't explain the pull. The trauma bond was stronger than logic. Example 2. Marcus. Successful entrepreneur. His partner would rage at him unpredictably, screaming about minor things. Then hours later they'd cry and apologize, saying Marcus was the only one who understood them. Marcus felt needed. The cycle made him feel necessary. Leaving meant losing that identity. Example 3. Jennifer. Teacher. Her partner would shame her sexually, then become intensely affectionate. She was caught between humiliation and feeling desired. She couldn't tell anyone because who would believe her partner was abusive? He was charming to everyone else. That social disconnect made her feel trapped and alone. Example 4. David. His partner was financially controlling but also paid for everything. When David tried to leave, he couldn't afford rent. The financial entanglement made escape logistically impossible. But beyond that, his partner had convinced him he couldn't survive without them, and David had started to believe it. Example 5. Elena. She had children with her abuser. Leaving meant potentially losing custody. Leaving meant her kids being exposed to conflict. The abuser knew this and weaponized it. "I'll take the kids," they'd threaten. Elena's love for her children became the tool that kept her trapped. We're almost there, and the explanation changes everything about how you should approach this problem. So why can't people just leave? We've looked at the brain chemistry. We've looked at the cycles. We've looked at the real barriers. But there's one more layer. Dr. Lenore Walker conducted longitudinal research on battered women, published in her work on the cycle theory of violence. She followed women over years and found something crucial. The longer someone stays, the lower their self-esteem becomes. The abuse isn't just external, it becomes internal. The abuser's criticism gets internalized. The victim starts believing they deserve it. This is called learned helplessness. It's a psychological state where someone stops trying to escape because they've learned through repeated failure or repeated punishment that escape is impossible. Their brain has given up. But here's where it gets subtle. Learned helplessness isn't stupidity. It's a rational response to an impossible situation. When every escape attempt has failed, when every boundary has been crossed, when the cost of leaving feels higher than the cost of staying, staying becomes the logical choice. The reason smart people stay in abuse is because their intelligence makes them better at rationalizing the irrational, and their success makes them believe they should be able to fix what's broken, including their abuser. Smart people think they can solve the problem. They think love should be enough. They think they just need to try harder, understand better, be better. That's not weakness. That's intelligence turned against itself. So what should you actually do if you or someone you know is in this situation? First, recognize the pattern. Understanding trauma bonding doesn't mean you can logic your way out of it. You can't think your way out of a neurochemical bond. You need support. Second, reach out externally. Call the National Domestic Violence Hotline. Talk to a therapist who specializes in trauma. The isolation is part of the trap, so connection becomes the escape. Third, safety first, judgment second. If you're helping someone, don't criticize their abuser or demand they leave. That triggers defensiveness. Instead, stay present. Say, "I'm here, I believe you, I'm not going anywhere." Fourth, make a plan. Leaving needs logistics, finances, housing, childcare, legal support. It's not romantic, it's practical. Get help making it practical. The truth is this: abuse isn't about love being weak. It's about the brain being hijacked. An understanding that changes everything about how we respond to ourselves, to people we love, and to the culture we create around these relationships. So the real answer to why people stay isn't about intelligence or weakness. It's about how the human brain responds to intermittent trauma and reward. But this same mechanism explains something even darker about why people sometimes hurt the ones they love most. And the answer involves something most people never examine about themselves. If you found this helpful, subscribe for more explorations into the hidden patterns of behavior.